Hello, everybody. This is Miss Peachy from WCA Biology B. Here we are with our first unit in second semester of biology. This is Unit 2, Lesson 2, Modeling the Carbon Cycle. So let's go ahead and start with our key terms, shall we? Our key words today are atmosphere, biosphere, carbon cycle, carbon dioxide gas, hydrosphere, lithosphere, photosynthesis, reservoir, residence, and respirate. So some of these are going to look real familiar to you. Some of them we talked about first semester. Some of them are just kind of common knowledge, I think, and some of them might be new. And then sometimes we use words differently in science than we do in our regular life. So that might also come up in this situation. So we are looking at the carbon cycle here. What is it? Well, carbon is an essential nutrient. We kind of looked at that first semester, right? And it cycles throughout the environment. You guys have probably learned of and discussed the water cycle from the time you were little bitty, from years and years and years and years through science, because it's an easy cycle to understand. But water isn't the only thing that cycles through the environment. Carbon is one of them as well. And so carbon dioxide is produced, as we know, as a waste product to cellular respiration. As you can see the picture of the runner who is breathing very heavily here after she just went running in the winter. Oh, good for her, running outside in the winter. I know some of you guys are runners out there. I am not a runner unless there might be a bear nearby, in which case I would run very, very fast. But in the absence of bear, running isn't really my thing, but I applaud all of you who love to run because I don't love to run. But when you are running, you have an excessive need for additional oxygen because your body is doing lots and lots of cellular respiration. Your muscles need extra ATP, and so you're trying to produce so much extra ATP, and a waste product of that is carbon dioxide, right? In order to be able to do cellular respiration, you need to have sugar in your body. You need to be able to eat. So you have that glucose, that blood glucose levels need to be high. Sugars are C6H12O6, and so we see again carbon found in those sugars, right? So you're breathing out carbon dioxide, and then plants take that carbon dioxide in to help them with the process of photosynthesis. That's just part of that carbon cycle. We kind of knew part of it already. Carbon also moves between the geosphere, the hydrosphere, and the atmosphere. So the solid Earth, the liquid Earth, and the gaseous Earth. Those are our areas of the Earth where carbon can move. It helps to regulate the temperature of the earth. It provides energy in the form of glucose for living things. It helps to ensure the production of oxygen as plants take it in to make sugars and produce oxygen as a byproduct. And so we see a diagram here of the carbon cycle, and we can kind of see all the contributors to the carbon cycle, where carbon dioxide is being released and where it is being taken up, where it is being held or stored as well. So here we have photosynthesis, which takes up carbon dioxide. We have respiration, plants and animals respire, which produces carbon dioxide. And we have places where carbon dioxide is held for a while. It's stored, and these storage areas are called reservoirs. So you might be familiar with a water reservoir that stores rainwater, like after it rains, so it doesn't flood in the city. Well, there are also carbon dioxide reservoirs on Earth. Another name for a carbon dioxide reservoir is a carbon sink. We sometimes call these sinks, like the sink in your bathroom, because it stores water, right? So a huge carbon dioxide reservoir is the ocean. The ocean makes up 3/4 of the Earth's land surface. 3/4 of the Earth is made up of just water. And so all that atmospheric carbon dioxide can interact with much of the water, and a lot of it will dissolve in the oceans. Also, anything that dies is eventually going to decay, and some of it gets buried over time and becomes fossils and fossil fuels. It gets buried and stored within the earth. The Earth is also, the geosphere is also a reservoir for the storage of carbon dioxide. All right, so we talked a little bit about breathing and photosynthesis. This is one way in which carbon moves from the atmosphere to the biosphere. It is taken in by plants, it is used in photosynthesis, and it is used along with water to help make sugars. And we're very familiar with the process of photosynthesis because we studied that last semester, right? So carbon dioxide is used, it is reacts with oxygen molecules and produces sugar, which is a 6-carbon molecule. And then in the process of cellular respiration, it is used to manufacture ATP. No, I do cellular respiration and you do cellular respiration, but plants do cellular respiration too. All aerobic organisms will do cellular respiration. Doesn't matter if you're a plant or if you're an animal. So you take that sugar, you break it down, and combined with oxygen, you're able to then manufacture adenosine triphosphate, ATP. As a waste product from that, we get carbon dioxide. So through plant respiration right here, you can see that right there. Through animal respiration, we release carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere. So all of this is well and good, except where we see some of the negative effects of too much carbon dioxide production. Because here we see a factory and vehicle emissions. These are not natural sources of CO2. These are unnatural sources of CO2. See, what happens is over time, after organisms die and decay, they are broken down and the carbon becomes integrated into the soil and again over time can become fossils and fossil fuels. This takes millions and millions of years. Most of the fossil fuels that we draw from today are over 200 million years old. But humans in the past 100 years or so have dug up those fossil fuels and burned them. And burning, which is the chemical reaction combustion, releases carbon dioxide. That's one of the byproducts of carbon dioxide. And what happens? You have more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere than the plants can actually use. You increase atmospheric carbon dioxide. The ocean stores some of that CO2. But if the ocean stores too much CO2, carbon dioxide will actually react with water to form acid. It forms a substance called carbonic acid, and this is harmful to ocean animals and leads to something called ocean acidification. It results in animals that make shells are especially harmed because they are either not able to make their shells or their shells are smaller or weaker because of the acid in the water. All right, so some organisms actually break down dead organisms. These are either called decomposers or detritivores, kind of depending on what level they're doing this at. So they decompose things to recycle the nutrients in the bodies into the geosphere and into the atmosphere and the biosphere. So we really owe a lot to our decomposers, things like mushrooms, for example. They're responsible for breaking down dead organisms and they do release some of that carbon dioxide back into the soil. So how we get carbon dioxide stored in the soil to become mineral carbon and fossil fuels is, we think, largely in part due to these decomposers and detritivores. And finally, as I kind of alluded to, over the past 100 or more years, it's kind of getting on 150 years at this point, since the Industrial Revolution, human beings have been burning carbon dioxide, and that burning has increased exponentially. As a result, we have too much carbon dioxide in the atmosphere than plants can absorb because carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas. And one of the things of greenhouse gases is they actually help to trap heat from the sun in the atmosphere. They kind of act like blankets. They allow us to stay warm. They're great things, because without carbon dioxide in our atmosphere, we would be very, very cold at night. They give us a nice toasty blankets to keep us warm at night. The problem is when that toasty blanket becomes way too heavy, and then the planet kind of starts to sweat a little bit, if you know what I mean. We actually start to increase in temperature, and that's affecting ecosystems. It affects global climate. It affects different organisms' habitats, and has really some unbeknownst effects as well. Some things we really don't know what will happen. But what we do see is melting polar ice caps, more frequent and severe hurricanes, altering migration and reproductive patterns of animals. All of these things can be directly related to an increase in global temperature that has been happening over time due to excess amounts of CO2 in the atmosphere. All right, ladies and gents, that is all for Unit 2, Lesson 2. Again, there is a guide that goes along with this, so if you have not gone to our Student Hub yet, please go there and make sure that you use the guide to fill in the appropriate information that you might have questions to answer on this student guide. If you have any questions on this unit, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you guys in the next video.